Jay here for Stretford, Paddock, and this is the Devils podcast. And joining me are two of my favourite ever United fans. Alex Baggers, how are you doing?
I'm good, mate. Very good.
Yeah?
Very good. Good to be back. It's been a while. I've been away for a bit, so I'm good.
And since you've been away, things have been happening, which we'll get to in a minute.
Yeah.
And also, Joe Smith.
How the devil are you?
Nicely done. You see, straight in with that. That's why we love him. Fantastic. And you've got pieces of paper there with writing.
I've got some pieces of paper. It's what we're going to be talking about today, Jay. It's very interesting.
Professional he is.
United have actually, like you said, stuff's actually been going on, hasn't it?
It's weird, isn't it? Oh. It's weird not standing outside Old Trafford in the morning going, so you've heard this story before, but Jadon Sancho.
Jadon Sancho, he's not happening. Maybe he is. That's it. That's all we do.
But now, it don't matter that Jadon Sancho ain't happening because we've got VDBs instead.
VDBs.
And there's potential other people coming up that we're going to be talking about. It's great. It's actually proper again.
Transfer cup runneth over.
I know. It felt like I think everyone was just getting a bit fatigued with it's transfer season, so we like talking about transfers because that's what you do. But there's nothing to talk about, and we all knew there was nothing to talk about. But each day you open the newspaper, and there's still stories about Man United signing people, but you just don't have the care and the excitement and the energy because you think, well, there's always going to be stories, so we have to report on them because they are what the stories are. But we all know that these aren't close, and how many times can we hear? No offense to Fabrizio Romano, of course, we all love him, but how many times can we hear? The player wants to join United. It's just a matter of 120 million euros. Like we know.
We know that.
And I know he has to say. I'm not having to go at him all the way he reports things at all. But the news has stagnated around Sancho for so long that all of a sudden,
more footballers.
But even that, Van der Beek signed faster than that.
It was
the 24-hour transfer.
It was like
it's not official
yet. Here we go.
Yeah.
Because it was sort of
Fleetwood Mac.
Because I kind of thought. I thought Van der Beek was set for Barcelona and Real Madrid. I think with Ronald Koeman coming in, that was the rumours that's him now. That's where he's going to go. Go back with Frankie de Jong and play midfield there. That was it. And then it just kind of went, United's still interested. And then we've got him. It's done. It's finished. It's great.
Yeah, it is. Sorry, I just keep thinking Ronald Koeman for some reason. What it smells like. Van der Beek then. We've talked about him on some of the shows. We've talked about him a little bit. Alex, what do you think to him? Obviously, we're happy that we've signed someone. Yep. It's not official yet, as of the time of recording, which is only very shortly before it goes out, so hopefully not much will have changed. No. But as of the time of recording, it hasn't been officially announced. The reports were that he had his medical yesterday. Presumably past that, there was no contrary or adverse reports as to the medical. But what do you think of him as a signing? What do you think of the sort of the gap he fills in the squad and whether there is even a gap? Because there's some people, and we talked a little bit about it yesterday, we'll talk about it as we go on, who were saying very expensive for a squad player. What are your thoughts on the signing in general?
What used to be a good radio station is now just descended into clickbait drill.
We'll talk about that in a minute, but just generally, what do you think of the signing of Van der Beek? How it was done, the player himself?
He's a very good player, obviously. You know, he stood out for Ajax when they had their run into the Champions League. He did well last season, still was ridiculous goal contribution. I think it was over 21, like 10 goals and 11 assists in a shortened season, which is really impressive for a midfielder that has played deeper. I think that, you sign Bruno, you've now got Van der Beek, who both can play in sort of two different positions. They can play deeper if you want them to. You can play a bit further forward. And the whole point of him being a squad player, I mean, you put the comparison of, look, we are competing with Man City. Their squad is for as much as Liverpool did well last season, City's squad is what you kind of got to look to.
The high watermark of
that's how good a squad
depth.
You can. That's how we used to be, where we need two players for each position. And the fact that people are saying, "Oh, well, you've only got two in there." Well, look at the end of that season in the Europa League. You're playing Pogba and Bruno. They both look tired. There's no way of changing them. There's no way of saying, "Look, come off and have a break. Let's bring someone on."
Even within a game.
Yeah.
Subs don't even make sense, let alone starting without them.
Yeah.
Like confidence-wise, we need players in there.
So it's putting more legs in there. I'm hoping to see all three of them on there. I think that'll be very good. With teams we're going to have a lot of the ball, I think that we can do that. I think that with the back four we've got and the work rate that those three will put in, I think that we could play with all three in some way. And I think that the quotes that have come out today is that Ollie's kind of said that to Van der Beek, that there is going to be a chance of you will play alongside Bruno and Pogba, which is interesting to see. And it'll be interesting to see, maybe we play a couple of games as a diamond and things like that, whether we try and fit all them in there with a Matic still and things like that. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the fact that, like I said, you can rest some players now. We can put some different players in, we can change things up a bit. And, there's so many times where City started without De Bruyne, you're going, what do you mean they're starting without De Bruyne? But you go, all right, that's because they've got
Champions League on
Bernardo
Wednesday.
Silva and that. And I was mentioning this to someone the other day about the Champions League. Last season, the Europa League, you could play a weakened squad because the games we were playing, we are going to be the best team. There's a good chance our group has a top Spanish team, a top German team in there at least, and then we're probably going to have one game where we can probably field a weaker squad.
Assuming we didn't lose the bigger games.
And that's the other thing, is that'll probably be our must-win game in that group.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to play a full-strength squad in our midweek games now. So that's another round of games that we need to play a full-strength team in. So having Fernandes, Pogba, Van der Beek is a good situation to be in.
And at the risk of unsettling you slightly here, Jay, how deep would you like things at United? Because Alex there mentioned about the depth that this allows us, and I think that's something we were missing. But do you think that we'll talk about Thiago a little bit going forward, but how much is the depth the issue at United? That sort of, we look at the sort of the point of the knife, if you like, and that starting 11 is very strong, can beat any team. We've seen that. But as Alex said there, you're in the Europa League semi-final and people are having to go at Solskjaer for not wanting to make a sub to the 85th minute. But that's because the options off the bench don't improve the team.
No, you're right. And I think Ollie's sort of done it in stages anyway with his team. He's in transfers, he wanted to sort out the defence. He brought in Wan-Bissaka and he brought in Harry Maguire for big money. And that more or less, because he's getting a tune out of Luke Shaw and bringing Brandon Williams in, that more or less sorts out your defence. Attack-wise, with Martial and Rashford, he got rid of Lukaku and he had them too, and bringing in Greenwood, he sorted out the attack. Midfield, bringing in Bruno and keeping Pogba and keeping him happy, it's more or less sorted out midfield. The only sort of thing now is getting that squad. Like you're saying, R11, when they're all fully fit, because when there was fatigue at the end of the season, I would fancy our chances against anyone. If you've got Manchester United fully fit, strongest 11, I'd put us up against the Scousers, against City, against any team on the planet. Yep. The only issue is, as you said, is when you get one or two injuries, the likes of when you're bringing in Pereira and Lingard, and to a lesser degree, you can maybe argue that I think Fred's had a good season. McTominay, I love him, but you might argue that you suffer a bit when they come in, because we saw how Matic is just a cut above those players in that role. But now, if you strengthen the squad and you bring in players like obviously Van der Beek, and then hopefully one or two others, then that's the next phase, isn't it? You've sorted out your 11, you've sorted out your defence, you've got your midfield sorted, you've got your attack sorted. The next stage is then, even the goalkeeper is sorting that out because Henderson signed a new deal. So the next stage is to get the squad stronger, not by signing players who are 6 or 7 out of 10, but the players like Van der Beek, who potentially is like an 8 or 9 out of 10 player, who will come to United and want to play and want to start, and he'll feel like he should start. This isn't a 19-year-old from Bournemouth, whatever. This is a player who's been at one of the biggest clubs in Europe, Ajax, had a very good 3 seasons, since kicked on massively since...
No offence to Bournemouth, obviously. You hate all sort of peripheral seaside towns, don't you?
You know my feelings on that. We don't need to go into it.
Cleethorpes, get fucked.
Don't start me on them bastards at Cleethorpes. So it is the next... And, he will come in and, like you said, Ollie's convinced him. I'm sure Ollie hasn't said to him, well, behind McTominay, Fred, Matic, you're my guy. No. He won't have said that. He'll have said, you can start, but you've got, you've got to obviously perform. And so it's what you want to see. You just to finish on that before his point is, every good United team and squad hasn't had an 11. It's had a 14 or 15. You look at someone like Darren Fletcher, for example. You could argue that players like Park and Fletcher weren't even first teamers technically. When everyone's fit at their peak, Fletcher probably doesn't get in the team. Park didn't even get into the 2008 final squad. I know he played in the semis, but they're almost club legends, and that's what you need. You need very good players who are sort of make up that 14 or 15 you choose for the first team.
And this suggestion that it's a lot of money for a squad player. First of all, you don't get players that are good enough, because all a squad player is good enough for the first team. A good squad player, like I said, Fletcher, Park, is good enough for the first team, but there's someone better. I think that's what a squad 100%. Player should be. It shouldn't be, well, you're not really good enough for Man United, but you can stick around. You should be good enough to play any given game, but we happen to have someone even better than that. That's all a squad player should be. And Van der Beek, I think, to get a sort of player that's good enough to play for Man United against, like I said, Arsenal and City and Chelsea and any given game, or even if you've got a specific role player like we did in Park, like we did in Fletcher, where they might play Bayern Munich or Barcelona or whatever it may be, you have to be very good, and those players don't cost 15 million quid unless you happen to get lucky or you get them when they're 17 or 18 like we did with Ronaldo. You don't get a player that can walk into Man United's first team next season on any given game for 15 quid. Very, very rarely, unless you're getting someone at the end of a contract. Like Thiago may be an example of that. But the idea that 35 going up to 45 is a lot for a squad player.
It's not anymore.
That's how much a squad player costs.
It's not anymore though.
If you want to have a good squad.
The big signings now are 60 million plus. 30 million, 60 million is.
Leeds are spending 30 million on people.
Yeah, that's it. Leeds are spending 30 million on their first
Rodrigo.
team. We should be able to spend that on. This is it. Like City didn't get shit last year for signing Cancelo for 60 odd million, and he played like 25 games.
Everton paid 50 million for Sigurdsson 4 seasons ago, whatever it was. So
You're
right.
also, and this suggestion as well that he's a squad player. People act as though squad players play 4 games a season. Fred's played 40 games this season. Mason Greenwood, who for most of the season was a squad player, a hugely talented one at that, has played the second most games for Man United this season.
55 games he's played this season.
It's ridiculous. Dan James has played 35 games. Yeah. Brandon Williams has played 30 games. These are squad players. You play almost a full Premier League season, or 25 to 35 games as a squad player. And if anyone's playing 35 games for Manchester United, no matter how many minutes per game or whatever it is, they have to be very good.
You look at what Liverpool even. Their front three doesn't change a lot, but their three in midfield, they have 6 players there easily. And they've got Henderson, Wijnaldum, Fabinho. Lallana played in a lot of games last season.
Keita
doesn't play, and Milner. So there you go.
Yeah.
You've got 6 players. They did it against us in the first at the game at Old Trafford, where they took off their whole midfield and put on a brand new midfield, and it didn't. They maybe weren't. Fabinho maybe came off and Milner come on, but it's still a good footballer coming onto that football pitch, and we just couldn't. We couldn't change 3 midfielders last season.
You're right.
Even now we couldn't.
You're right as well. Like you look at the great United teams. 99. Jesper Blomqvist plays 41 games in that season. 40 odd games.
I know. Like he was crap.
And wins the lot.
Yeah.
Teddy doesn't play many games. I think he plays a handful, but again, he's an integral part of it. And if we aspire to get to those levels we used to be at, you have to have excellent squad players. And Van der Beek, of course he's that.
Like, you don't think John O'Shea was, people considered him to be a squad player.
Yeah.
He played 300 games for Man United as a squad player.
Yeah.
Like, Solskjaer, he was in and out of being a first team player, but he got, 170 goals for United as a squad player? Like, squad players
your favourite player, Phil Neville, was a squad player.
Yeah, but he played loads of games.
Yeah, and now there's talk of putting a statue
and
outside
even in
Old
that
Trafford
99 team, Nicky Butt was a squad player. He was
never. Of course he was. If everyone's fit, like the real reason he starts in the Champions League final is because Keane and Scholes get injured. Scholes doesn't even start in the Stade Alpine in the semi-final.
No.
It's, what I mean? All right, Fergie mixed it up a bit.
Again, Giggs didn't start against Arsenal in the semi-final, and that's all these people think, that's ridiculous. Well, no, that's what happens. You want a big squad. The reason United did well across all fronts was that they had a big squad and could rotate it. That's why City, for the past few years, have been the only team that can win the domestic cups as well as doing that, because they can make 11 changes.
Did they lose De Bruyne for most of the
last season?
The season when
the season before last.
And still obviously won the league with 99 points.
Bernardo Silva.
They've got ridiculous.
They've got Foden, who's come through the squad, who's come through the youth team, but the rest of them players, Gundogan isn't a starter for them.
No.
Gundogan's
Foden come through the youth team. They never mentioned that.
No, they never mentioned that. Gundogan, again, they mention all these players. They signed him for 30 odd million quid, and he's a squad player for them.
But he still gets loads of games.
Of course he does.
And he can play in any game, that's the thing. So overall then, Van der Beek, not officially confirmed yet, but it's as close as you're going to get without him holding the scarf. We're happy with the signing?
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
And you think, sorry, again, do you think that sort of slightly more attacking, versatile 8-10 kind of player is what we need? Or do you think we need a number 6?
I thought we would maybe look at number 6, but maybe
we don't seem to be interested in one. We've not been linked to any, have we?
Doesn't seem so.
Could Thiago Alcantara fill that role if we slight link to him?
Great. Speaking of links, great segue. We'll talk about Thiago now, shall we? In recent days, actually coming out literally off the back of the Van der Beek deal, we've had the likes of Christian Falk and other German-based outlets reporting that United are monitoring Thiago, which is such a who the hell knows what that word means.
I mean,
it's weird.
For those who don't know, obviously Bayern Munich midfielder 29 is in the last year of his contract, or will be going into the last year of contract. So you're looking at around a 25 to 35 million pound fee for him. Heavily linked with Liverpool. United now rumoured to be interested in monitoring Thiago.
It could just be let's put Manchester United in there for clicks across the internet. Let's put Manchester United in there, or maybe Liverpool just want to do it to maybe speed it up a bit, or Bayern doing the same thing.
Speed Liverpool
up a bit. I don't know. There's a bit of that. I mean,
you said it though. You just hit the nail on the head earlier, and we were speaking, weren't we, to Florian? I think Plettenberg, who covers Bayern over there for Sport 1, and he was saying part of the problem is sort of Liverpool's midfield. They've got 6 options there. I think is Milner still there? I don't think he's left.
Lallana's gone now.
Lallana's gone. Sorry, so it's maybe down to 5. And he was saying that you could look at, we've got a delivery. Yeah, we were speaking to Florian Plettenberg from Sport 1, who covers Bayern Munich for them over in Germany, obviously. And he was saying that Thiago will be open to move to United because he named 2 things. He said that United are revered in Germany as the biggest club in England, and rightly so.
Of course.
And also, he said that he may be slightly reluctant because of the amount of midfielders that Liverpool have got. And I think Plettenberg said to us, he said, maybe if they sold Naby Keita, he'd be more keen to go. And I think, well, that's not going to happen. No. So I don't know. I mean, Liverpool don't seem to be coughing up the dough.
There were reports this morning, there were reports yesterday saying that Liverpool would have to sell someone before they can sign Thiago.
Right.
Which is bizarre to me because they've barely signed anyone in the last 2 years. And they've surely made a shitload of money from this new night kit deal. Surely they've made a shitload of money from winning the Champions League and then the Premier League. And yet they've got no money. I don't quite understand what's going on there. And also, the other report was that the contract demands of Thiago were ballistic and that United were like, ease up a sec. I mean, to be fair to him, he's 29, it's his last big deal. Yeah. You can see why he wants to get as much money as possible, but would you be into getting Thiago in, assuming he was on 290, 300 grand a week? Or, that's a guess, but assuming he wants a lot of money, it's not going to be 150, is it?
It's tough, really, because, I don't know, I feel like that's kind of breaking what we've been doing the past 12 months, where we've kind of got players, and Van der Beek's probably on, I think it was 120. Someone did that.
Which Bruno seems quite quaint these days,
Bruno
doesn't it?
Was
it's only 120 grand a week.
Bruno's like 80,
I'm sure my postman earns more than that.
How is that
which is ridiculous?
Possible?
And we've kind of gone away from, we've kind of looked at De Gea and gone, do you know what? Maybe that's a bit much. He's maybe going to go next.
We've got
Sanchez and De Gea were bad deals. I know De Gea, we love him, but
whereas
even Pogba was a lot.
Yeah, Pogba's a lot, and the thing is for Pogba is our best player, and he is the most marketable person for Manchester United.
Probably did us a bit of a favour as well, giving him that deal, because other clubs are probably looking at it going, not only have we got a massive transfer fee, we've got to match those wages.
So I'm kind of. Yeah, I'd like to see Thiago, but again, that is my sceptical thing to say is because I do think that he is one of the best players in the world in that position. Is that good? I think he just makes it.
What is he?
He's
a deep line number 8, isn't he? Or is it? He's a playmaking sort of
number
he sits
6.
back.
Yeah.
The one thing I worry about is I saw some stats the other day, and I don't want to get too deep into stats because, as we know, stats mean what you want them to mean.
Well, 97% of stats are made up.
Exactly. Somebody will get that. It took me a second. But I was looking at stats, and one of the things that has always been the biggest problem for me with Fred is his ball retention, and he gives the ball away too much.
Yeah.
And I saw it in comparison, McTominay, Fred, and Matic all next to each other. Fred brings the ball out better, but Matic plays a lot more forward passes because he splits the lines with his passing. But the biggest difference is he doesn't give the ball away. And that was the thing for years with Busquets, with Scholes, with Carrick. They're not going to get in and smash the back doors off you. That's not the same. But they're not going to do that. But what they will do, what they will do is cut the ball out, and they will never lose possession in transition. And that's the thing that Fred doesn't do. He gives the ball away too much for a number 6. And Pogba does the same because he's learning that position. But Fred's been there for 2 years now. We need someone next to Paul Pogba.
How much of that is shots by Fred giving away?
Maybe, yeah. But we need someone next to Paul Pogba who doesn't lose the ball, because when you're in that position and you lose the ball, especially if your centre backs to split a little bit to make play a little bit better, we're screwed. Thiago doesn't give the ball away. That's a good thing about he's used to playing that position. But do we need someone who is a number 6 who tackles, who hits hard, who can replace Matic?
World, isn't it, by the way? If Thiago, Pogba. Not even Van der Beek.
No, yeah,
Thiago, Bruno, and Pogba is the best midfield in the world.
100%.
But is it a balanced midfield?
I don't care.
It's just that ball retention that I worry about.
No one is ever going to have the ball against us because them 3 are there.
That's good.
So it doesn't. Again, it's like when City have that flow of whatever. You don't need David and De Bruyne to defend because they're not giving the ball away.
No, but they do always have Rodri or Fernandinho.
I think I'd love him, but I'm scared because I think Liverpool's
it's mad, because if you look at that midfield, say you've got Thiago, Alcantara, Pogba and Bruno.
Yeah, and then on the bench you've got Matic, Van der Beek and Scott McTominay.
And then you throw that up against Scousers who could have Henderson, Wijnaldum and Oxlade-Chamberlain. You just think, that's mad, but yeah, apparently he's looking at that going, I won't get in that team, so I could go for that one. I don't know, it just seems crackers.
I think it's that position. I think it's that number 6 position, because I think for them, I think if he's going to play, he's going to do that. I think Fabinho's kind of got that set for Liverpool. I don't think he's moving out of there.
We have to decide how we want to do our midfield, don't we? That's the thing.
I think he's going to play with 2 sitting.
But I mean, are those 2 sitting sort of creative ball retention players, or are they destructive, passing the ball through the lines players?
I think it all depends on the quality. I think a lot of it depends on the quality of them. Because as much as I love Scott McTominay, you put him in there, he gives the ball away more, isn't as good
more
as
than
that
Matic,
job.
but less than Fred.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're getting a more of a feel to the sort of midfield that Pogba thrived in under Juve, aren't you?
Absolutely.
It's getting towards that, because it was like...
That was Pirlo, Marquisio, Vidal... was Matuidi there? He wasn't then, was he?
I don't think so.
Was he?
And then,
when he left, maybe?
Yeah, then the France midfield he played well was Kante next to him.
Or Matuidi next to him.
Matuidi,
So he
Kante,
does thrive
Pogba.
with a more industrious workhorse next to... Kante's just never stops running.
Kante's ridiculous.
Matuidi the same. But then, Matic doesn't cover the ground, but
No.
he's defensive and disruptive like Kante and Tolisso, not Tolisso, Matuidi. Do we need someone like that next to him? That's my only worry, because Thiago's a ball player, isn't he?
There was some links to Kante the other week, because I think Lampard seems to want rid of him, or doesn't see him there.
I know we got Nemanja Matic from Chelsea, so it's not beyond the realms of possibility, but I just can't see that happening. I don't
think Chelsea are that daft to do it.
I just think...
Because I think they made a mistake giving us Matic, even though he's not been...
But there is a chance that Chelsea need to sell some players.
Yeah.
Because as much as their owners...
everybody else.
Their owners have got loads of money. Their owners got loads of money, but as we've seen with financial fair play... You what?
Who was the captain?
Kante was the captain against Brighton in a pre-season friendly.
Right, okay.
I mean, it's all right when he's on the pitch, but that's half the games he isn't on the pitch. But... Yeah, they've spent a lot of money.
He was the captain against Brighton in a pre-season friendly.
Can you switch the camera?
Yeah.
They've got a lot of money and they've got rich owners, but they still can't just spend what they want, because, as they know, financial fair play comes in and gives them a year ban. So they spent 250 million or whatever it's going to be.
I think they want rid of Jorginho before they want rid of anyone else. I think he's out the door before Kante.
But they're not going to get money for him.
No, whereas Kante, they get 40 million back.
Yeah.
You get that
They've
back.
got like 59 players that they can just get off the books, haven't they? They've got a ridiculous amount of players who are actually Chelsea players. Do you remember when they had a transfer ban that wasn't a ban, where they recalled all the loanees, and it was just like they had 4 squads worth?
Yeah.
And it's like, Lampard's found a gem in Mason Mount, and Tam Abraham's like, mate, he's had like 60 players.
He's 22 years old. He's had 4 years of like
and some of these
football league experience.
It was like Swansea's number 9 for a season, and
exactly.
Villa's number 9 or whatever. It's just madness. So I don't know. I'm always a bit sceptical on what's going to go on. I mean, I love Kante, but I think that's not going to happen. I personally would love to see us get Thiago, but we do have to be cautious with those wastings, because we're still recovering from the Sanchez deal.
And it's
we
exactly,
just, we had to give in to money to take him away from us.
It kind of.
Take my wife.
Please. It's literally like losing Ander Herrera. We lost Ander Herrera because of Alexis Sanchez. Because Herrera went, well, I start every week, and why is he on double what I've been offered?
Yeah.
So that kind of happens. Now that only takes Thiago to come in, and then Bruno go, hang on a minute, like I've come in here.
And I'm on a third of
I'm on
I've changed the world.
I've changed the world, and I'm on a third of what you've on. I like it here, but come on, lads, sort this out. And then that all starts. You don't know how that can...
No.
Whereas...
You'd have to... I mean, I don't know how these contract things work. Maybe if you did it like he got a signing-on fee or whatever, massive bonus that way or whatever, or some sort of structured deal. I don't know.
But the thing is, if Bruno keeps performing, he will get a contract renewal in about 2 years where he's on 250.
And that's not in doubt. If he keeps playing.
But again,
it's one of them, it's
unrest happens overnight.
And then
especially when it's someone coming in like
I'll
that.
just go to PSG.
Yeah, it doesn't take long for... everyone thinking, what the fuck? We brought him in, he didn't even start, and he's on 300 grand a week. I understand that. Right, let's move on then. Speaking of Alexis Sanchez, All or Nothing, Tottenham edition, aka let's get Man United's manager on there for a few more views. Honestly, right, first of all, okay, for those who don't know, Amazon Prime, All or Nothing documentary following Spurs last season. I'm sure a lot of you have seen it. they skimmed over the Pochettino era, didn't they? Like, he's been here for 5.5 years. He got him to the Europa League final. Oh, he's been sacked. Here's Jose. Like, literally gone immediately. No one cares.
Do you know what was happening now?
I don't know what even that. I need that. But like, they were like, Jose's here, episode 1. Like, I'm sorry, that happened halfway through the season, didn't it? It's like, nah, that happened at the start of this season. Tottenham didn't exist. I love. First of all, I'm just talking here because I love it. I loved the Tottenham Hotspur are now a star-studded team full of world-class internationals. You're like, what? That haven't won a trophy in 10 fucking years. That world-class star-studded team with a lovely stadium with a nice gold chicken on it. You've watched All or Nothing, have you?
I've only watched episode 1.
I watched them all 3 of them last night.
Yeah, me
too. When you were talking about it earlier, it did sort of fast forwarded through the Pochettino era or the Pochettino beginning of the season. I'm regardless of what you feel about Jose Mourinho, he's great box office.
It's the Jose Mourinho show, by the way. For anyone who is interested, who hasn't seen it, it's not about Tottenham, it's about Jose Mourinho.
And you always say, like, no man is bigger than the club. Well, you'd argue that he probably is, because would you be watching that if he wasn't on it? Probably not. He is box office. And I'm always fascinated by Jose. I think he's a very interesting character. And even his time at United, even it's a mixed bag, because you think about that night in Stockholm and things like that, and then you think about the last few months where it was just all going tits up. So it's always been a bit of a roller coaster when Jose Mourinho's in town, and this is it's great. It's fascinating watching how he's handling different players. It's interesting, and I'm just like, I'm interested in how a Premier League club is run and the different things they go through. It's always interesting, but Jose and how he's handling it and the results he's getting, and it's always weird because you know how the season goes and how these games unfold and stuff. It's how he reacts to them, and they've obviously got some characters in there, the likes of Dele Alli and
Eric Dyer was a big focus of one of the episodes.
I just like the first way he came in and just kind of like, he didn't get them all together and go, "Hiya, I'm Jose." Just went right on the training field,
like waving them out.
Just
from outside.
Come on, lads, on your coat. I'm just like.
And I liked how he went over to everyone and was like, "What do I call you? Who's Harry? Because there's Harry Winks and Harry Kane."
Yeah, why did they call him that?
Okay, Winksy, because he's Harry. Yeah. I like that. I
love the reaction to
regardless
Sissoko,
of, like you said, to Sissoko.
When his assistant comes into his office and goes, "So that's Sissoko's quite a big personality in the dressing room." He just goes, "Fuck,"
because obviously he doesn't want to play.
He just goes, he thinks, "Fucking, I've got to play him now, haven't I? I've got to keep him around."
It was interesting what he said about Fergie, wasn't it? The only bit of advice he got off Fergie was to sign Dele Alli.
Yeah,
which I thought was a bit odd. I didn't see that one coming.
I don't know. No. Kind of when Dele Alli first come onto the scene, you're like, he's everything that Fergie would have wanted in a player. He's got a bit of quality, but he's got that
bit of Rooney.
He's got that
dickishness as well.
He's got everything.
Which
about
when you play for Spurs and you're watching from that side, you think, "Oh, he's a bit of a twat." But if he's playing for you, you don't mind the occasional studs up, the occasional elbow. Like, you kind of want a bit of that. Yeah. So you can see why Fergie would have liked him.
And it's interesting to see Jose, the way he came into Dele Alli and said that. I think
he's lazy in training and said it in front of everyone.
Saw
it immediately. Everyone's like, "Get around the other side of the plane." Dele was like,
"Yeah,
fuck this."
And he literally went over in the first training session and said, "You're lazy. You need to fix that." And then in the first meeting was, "Yes, Dele, we know you're lazy, but in this game you aren't going to be fucking lazy." And you can see how in certain teams and in certain, if he's done that to, if Paul Pogba's taken that the wrong way, which is probably what he said to him at some point, or he said that to someone in the United squad, where they've just gone, "I don't need to be."
It was interesting. You mentioned Eric Dyer when they had that talk, and obviously Eric Dyer speaks Portuguese. He grew up in Portugal, and you feel like, he said, "I tried to sign you years ago, and I rate you and all this," and you think, "Oh, there's a real bond there," and then he takes him off after half an hour.
Yeah.
In the next game, and Eric Dyer's just sat there like. Proper devastating.
Career's over, lads.
Mate, never get too friendly with Jose. Only goes one way.
But yeah, the way he spoke about, he said, if you do what I say, you can't give 80%, you can't give 95%. If you give 100%, I'll have no problem with you.
Yeah.
But if you do, then I'll be a bastard to you, whatever he said. And you can see how that would work with him, especially. And you can also see how that kind of mentality and that kind of managerial style, which, let's not forget, as much as I don't think Jose was right for United, and obviously I think when he left it was the right time for him to go, he is one of the best managers, and I was saying before, not just as a football manager, but when, compare him to a manager of a manager at B&Q or a manager at a car wash or any kind of manager, the way you interact with people is how you manage people. He's one of the best and most successful managers of any kind in the history of the world. He is.
But
he's as good as it gets. Yeah. And you watch the way he interacts with people and the way he speaks to people and the way he said to Dele Alli, I don't know what it is. You don't have to tell me, but your career did this, and then is now doing this.
Yeah.
And you think, the way he approaches things, and just being able to see him working, and obviously there's a respect and an interest there from a United perspective because he was the United manager. It's very interesting
to me, like as well with him and Harry Kane. He's very friendly towards Harry Kane. Sort of, he lets before the matches, like, do you want to do the talk or shall I? He said how you're a movie star type player, and I always think with Jose, he has those types, especially with strikers. He tends to let strikers just get on with it. Did it with Vibra, didn't he? He's the only player manager that never really had an issue with Lan. Even Lukaku to a certain extent, he brought him in and just left him to it.
He decides that players are his guy.
Yeah, and he's like very much like with Kane, who's obviously the focal point of that team.
Yeah.
And there was never you could see he wasn't going to have an issue with him. He was like, "You're great, you're a star,
silent leader, all that stuff." None of this.
He
doesn't shout enough. He doesn't. The things you could throw at Kane as a captain is like he's a silent leader.
Just praised him and like obviously gets him involved in the team talks and stuff. Like I don't know, I don't know the wisdom behind that one. To be honest with you, I don't think Harry Kane's fit for giving a team talk, let alone a team talk, but that's another story. But yeah, he's obviously on board with him. But the other ones, like, because that dressing room and that club has issues.
Yeah,
like it was pretty toxic just before Pochettino left. You've got players running out of contracts. You've got players with discipline problems. You've got just players not performing. Ericsson wanted to leave. I think both centre backs, the contracts were up for renewal. And you just Dele Alli's had disciplinary problems, and it was like he's sort of
He's
got it all together.
Yeah.
But as we all know, Tottenham didn't end up having a good season, really.
And you look at when he first comes in, he's talking about top four. They got within 6 points, was it?
Yeah.
Going for 3 points, and then they lost to either United or there was someone else they lost to.
I think it's Chelsea. I think it was 3 points.
Oh yeah, they lost to Chelsea. Yeah. But the emphasis was clearly on top four when he arrived. Obviously, they didn't get top four. But I like some of it how when they lost they lost to, I think it was Chelsea, or they lost one of the games, and he came in and was like, no, that's it. That happens sometimes. Like he's not. You imagine him just screaming every time they lose, and obviously maybe that sort of bedding in period where he's coming in, he doesn't want to upset people so much so early on. Like with Eric Dyer, he dropped him after 30 minutes or subbed him off, and then was like, usually if I sub someone off that early, they won't play the next game. But for the sake of team spirit and my relationship with him at this point in my career at Tottenham, he played him again the next game, didn't he? Yeah. So there's little things like that where it's just. It's interesting. It's nothing other than interesting.
You're
right. It's interesting to see how he does things.
Yeah,
and you can kind of pick up on where things could go wrong.
Yeah,
and the way he said it to, I think he had that meeting with Harry Kane early on as well, and he said we should be doing better because you're a better team than I am, Manchester United, and you're nowhere near where I was then. Yeah. And just for him to be that blunt as well.
Do you think there's an element of truth to that though?
Absolutely.
Because when remember like United, when he took over there, and I remember like Pochettino's last game, he had like Lucas Moura, Harry Winks, Christian Eriksen on the bench, and at the time we had like Pereira starting every match. I don't want to make it bashing him, but he's not.
Well, think about the team that he walked into.
That squad and our squad at that time. You probably say they had the better.
Well, I think
players to choose from.
Everyone looked at them this season coming in, and they signed in Nabella, and you kind of went, they could push. Liverpool and City this year,
Everyone thought top three, didn't they?
Top three.
They got Champions League final last year,
and they strengthened as well.
We've never been allowed to forget. Oh, did you nearly win a title?
Yeah, and they strengthened as well.
But they strengthened. Yeah.
Yeah, it's anything like that. I mean, I didn't watch the City one because I just couldn't. No, I could not be.
They're too much of a rival, and we know they win.
The only thing that was good watching that was when we beat them from 2-0 up. That was the best.
I honestly haven't even seen
I didn't even watch that.
No.
I just thought everything about that stunk. Yeah. It's just glossing over the real reason that they got took over. Absolute pep wank fest, and I can't be doing with any of it.
And the thing with Tottenham as well is they've always been one of those teams that the memes of lads, it's Tottenham, and we've beat them in some good games, and we don't lose to them that often. And whilst they're a big team, because they never win anything, you don't even feel bad watching them win the odd game on a highlights reel.
That's a good point.
Because we know we beat them this season. Yeah. We know we beat Jose. They sort of glossed over that a little bit as well. I was like, the next game is Jose's last team, Manchester United, and then it's like just goes dark and it comes back. They lost to United. And that was it.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, that'd be good. But I was expecting a highlights package. You don't see any of the dressing room stuff from that game, do you?
No, I don't think United have said you can come anywhere near us with them cameras.
Maybe it was Old Trafford, wasn't it?
You can use the game footage and just put you ain't coming through that door.
That makes sense. Yeah, because if there's some scuffle and there's Jose getting pizzas thrown at him or whatever, we don't want that. But it is very interesting, and you do have to have a little bit of respect for. Tottenham are one of those teams I just don't care about. Like they don't raise my blood pressure. They're almost just like neutral, just a glass of water of a team. Yeah. But the fact that they've not won they're the only team who's hung around the top 4 in the last 10 years that haven't won anything.
They're the only team that finished 3rd in a 2-horse race.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? But even like Leicester have come into the top 4. They've won the Premier League. City and Liverpool have obviously won stuff. Chelsea have won stuff. Even United have won stuff. They have done a good job of consistently getting a lot of points.
Even that 8th place team, Arsenal,
never fucking winning out. They've done no other team has managed to do that.
Do you know what? I'm a bit disappointed though.
But it is shit.
I'm hoping. I don't know how it pans out or anything, but I'm hoping we do see a bit of feistiness from Jose.
Oh, we've got to see some of it.
You know, like you probably like the
old January yet?
We need to get him into full like John Sitton mode. Bring your dinner with you. We'll have a fucking right old sort out here.
I want to see the ins and outs bit because that's the interesting bit for me.
Yeah, me too.
Because he gets rid of Eriksen, which for me is
I thought Eriksen didn't come across very well from the first.
No, Eriksen was like, "You're going to say that." Everyone talks about me and it's all false.
Yeah, I'm just treated like an asset, and the treatment. I think about 100k a week. Stop whinging.
Yeah. So Eriksen, I want to see them when he brings in a couple of players in January. He brings in
and I want to see him in the park throwing tennis balls to Tanguy and Ndombele trying to get him fit. Ridiculous. Some of the breaking lockdown to play footy in a park with a professional footballer. The disrespect he showed him there. He's like, oh, he's not fit. Don't play him then. It's your fault he's not fit. You're his manager. Ridiculous.
Yeah, literally, Jose
they were in the park running around cones.
What's going to make this great? You don't want to see Jose being nice to people.
No, I want to see him disrespecting people and getting shouted at.
Threatening people, throwing him under the bus like he did with everyone he's ever gone, everywhere he's ever gone. Yeah. That's the real box office Jose that we want.
Yeah, you want to see him explode. And we know he had a problem with Aurier because he's about to go or he has left. And Ndombele because he's a fat lad and he ain't playing for me. He's like, you're his manager. Stop him being fat for a bit. Oh, I'm so excited for that. Just him falling out with people. But yeah, it's a good start. Let's go back to a bit of transfers before we go.
Go on then.
We've got Upamecano on the radar. Upamecano. He's on the radar. Talks of United being interested in him for about 37.5 million, which by all accounts isn't going to be enough to sign him.
No,
we've seen
his lightest.
He's got apparently he's got a release clause that is activated next summer. That is around 50 million, or 45 million. So people are saying rumored that somewhere around 50 to 55 million would be enough to get him this summer. He's just signed a new contract this summer.
Yeah, it wasn't long ago.
Why don't we sign him before that? Why are we Fellaini in it again?
I don't know.
Fellaini in it. I don't know. I mean, nothing about what we do in the transfer market and our approach to transfer makes a lot of sense to me. Don't know a lot about him, but he's obviously a good player. And I think if you got him, then all of a sudden, your transfer summer is looking a lot brighter than it did a few weeks ago because we've all said we need another option at centre back. Yeah, if you look at it, we get Upamecano and we've got Van der Beek looks pretty much done. Yeah. And one other, then that's a decent summer. And that's a summer I think we all expected. Certainly everyone sat here, and from what we gathered from people we spoke to who know a lot more about the situation than we do, was that 3 signings was roughly what most people see. If James Cooper sort of said that. And that would make sense because it has gone proper cold on the Sancho front.
It seems to be that United have almost like a 3-signing policy now, isn't it? Like James, Wan-Bissaka, Maguire,
Fred, Delot,
Grant.
Do you reckon Grant was like, we've signed 2, we need a 3rd?
Yeah.
Quick.
Have you got anyone who's old as shit and will never play for us? Yeah, Lee Grant.
Sorry, Lee.
I said old as shit, not old and shit. He's old as shit.
That's fine.
He will be on MUTV pretty soon one day as a legend, as a club legend.
Yeah, wearing that the black polo shirt where it's bursting at the seams because they put a bit of weight on. So it seems as though you can't expect more than 3 signings. Certainly not 3 starting 11 signings. Chelsea have gone mad, which has sort of heightened the, I guess, envy and jealousy and expectation. You look across it in league terms at what our rivals are doing. Certainly our points rivals in Chelsea. and they've gone for it in a way that we haven't seen United do since, what was it, Tevez. Who else did we get that year? Tevez.
Well, we got Tevez, we got Hargreaves, we got Nani, we got Anderson.
Yeah.
We did go for it under Van Gaal one summer though.
Yeah, we did.
We did when we got, I think, Blinshaw, Falcao, and Di Maria was all one summer.
Yeah. So we haven't, you know,
memory serves.
but in terms of money spent, Falcao was free, but the rest of them cost money. I understand that, but we've never seen United.
No, I get where you're coming from. Certainly not recently.
And certainly not recently.
That's proper.
Yeah. So the idea that we were going to get any more than 3 was always seemed unlikely. But for a long time, the whole Sancho stuff got to a point where advanced talks are being made and then dead. Not dead, but quiet. So then now this transfer seems to have lifted the mood slightly, doesn't it?
It started to feel like the Mourinho summer when he signed Fred.
Yes.
Below. That's what it kind of felt like. We're not going to get anyone in. You know, we're going to, we'll maybe pick up a reserve left back or something like that, and that'll be it. And we'll just kind of go, we're going to blame
a 19-year-old centre back.
Yeah, we're going to blame coronavirus, and that'll be it. And then Ollie are going to get thrown under the bus by Christmas, and that'll be it. That's the project done and dusted. We're going to start.
We see it coming.
That was the feeling that everyone was getting. But the Van der Beek one, just that one signing coming in, everyone's kind of gone, okay, we're a bit slow, which we know United have been for a long time now. We've not been quick in the transfer market, but we've got someone, and we might get now Upamecano if we get him. I still think I think there'll be a Grealish. If we don't get Sancho, I think Grealish will push for that as well. I still think we'll look at someone like that. I think that we need someone else that'll fit in and is an option across that front line. And I think that Grealish kind of does both jobs.
Yeah.
I think he
could play out wide as well.
Plays out wide.
He would be
midfield.
I think he'd be a great signing.
I think that as a alternative to Sancho, which I don't think you can have, because the players who've been linked to, even like...
There's no one in the world that fits the criteria that Sancho occupies either, is there?
No.
For his age, his output, his speed, his trickery. Like, there's no one who can get that many assists and that many goals and is 21 and has done it in a top league. There is no one else in the world that ticks all the boxes that Sancho ticks, and is English and knows Manchester. Like, it doesn't exist.
No.
Even if you're taking away some of the big criteria, there isn't. If you go down the sort of the English side, which United seem to want, there's no one. Grealish, I suppose, is that he's not as quick. He doesn't get as many goals as assists, but he sort of knows, he's English and he's young. Like, but no one sort of does both in terms of quality and just on a personal level. He knows all the lads. He's friends with people. He's a great age. All that sort of stuff. He's the only one who exists like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So if we don't get Sancho, I think that the worry was that we were going to get no one, or we were going to panic and get Kingsley Coman on loan, and it might not work out. We're going to spend 150 million on Dembele from Barcelona, and it's just not going to work.
I don't want him.
And that's it. I don't think we wanted that. But just the Van der Beek signing, the links to a centre half, I think that is a clear thing that he wants now. I think there's definitely another centre half in there. It looks better. It looks, and I don't think United are going to end this summer with a squad that should compete for the league. But it's going to be if it ended right now with Van der Beek, the squad is better than it was last year, which is the first time in 3 years.
The good thing as well about those signings is Van der Beek's got, he's only 23, got levels to go. You mentioned Upamecano, he's obviously a
21, which for a centre back, he might as well be 17.
Exactly.
That's ludicrously young for a centre back.
So you've got, players which sort of fit that thing of, me and you were talking the other day about it, United in 3 or 4 years' time can have practically the same team other than maybe Matic that we've got now, and they'll be a little bit better because we've all got, players that, even the likes of Pogba's only 27. He's not like old.
No.
Or, in terms of football terms. And the likes of Mason, Martial, Rashford are all going to get better, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You'd expect them, especially Mason, expects him to, go up a couple of levels. Wan-Bissaka, basically that team is a young team.
Yep.
So hopefully, if we get those type of players, and eventually, it might not be this summer, but I think eventually we'll get Sancho, who again fits that criteria of being young, then we've all said we expect a title challenge, a proper one, in a couple of years, and that would happen.
Either next season or the season after.
And that would happen if you get those types of players in, because as long as you don't lose anyone massive, like Pogba stays or whatever, your team improves. They all get a little bit more experience, and again,
we were talking about with Carl Anker, weren't we, last week, where he was saying there are, it's a common theme in American sports, but people have like a title challenge in their head, like a timeline, whereas Klopp isn't going to be at Liverpool forever. Pep isn't going to be at City forever. They've got the likes of Aguero and City have got quite a lot of older players.
Yeah.
And then Liverpool have got players in Salah and Mane who may not stick around. Firmino, who doesn't have the output they did a couple of seasons ago. Well, yeah, but you know what I'm saying? He's declining in his output.
And
massively. That might be a perfect time for United to go for that.
Madrid and Barca, with everything that's going on in La Liga, there's going to be some money put behind them, and that's got Van Dijk.
Maybe £700 million if City get that way.
Yeah,
exactly.
And that's got Van Dijk all over it as well. Yeah. I think that Ramos retiring and Piqué both retiring at the same time. Good point. That's got Van Dijk going to one of them at some point.
Laporte even as well.
Laporte for ridiculous money. They're going to be the links that happens. It's what happened with United for years. You know, that's what happened with Ronaldo, is that he got to a certain level, and then they're always going to come sniffing around. That's the thing, and things like that. And it's how you can replace them and whether they do. And that's when you have to jump on that transition period. You know, and that's what United need to do in the next couple of years. The Pogba thing, you know, we did mention it, that signing him to a new deal isn't a new signing, because it's definitely not. But I still think in the back of everyone's mind, he was always going to go either this summer or the summer after. But if he signs a deal this year, that's him through this period. Then that's him for the next couple of years.
I think all he's got to get
him around.
I mean, I know a lot of people saying, well, it's because like Real Madrid or Barcelona or Juventus haven't been able to spend the money or pay the money that United want for Pogba, but I think Ole needs to get more credit for the way he's handled some of these players. You know, we talked about Jose earlier. When Jose left, you know, Martial was disillusioned, Rashford wasn't firing on all cylinders, Pogba wanted out, Luke Shaw just, you know, gone to the dogs. I mean, it was a mess, and it was. And I think part of the thing his problem was Ole came in, we won 12 out of 13. Everyone went, oh, he's fixed everything. So when we struggled, he started getting a lot of stick. But I think if you look at what he's done since he's been at Manchester United as manager, whether that's caretaker's permanent, he's sorted out so many of the issues with these players. You know, we almost swapped Martial for Willian. We almost, you know, Pogba almost... Perisic, exactly. You know, and these are players that potentially could be here for another 3 or 4 years at least, and doing you know, great stuff at Manchester United. And I think Ole's handled it well. Even Pogba, right up until lockdown, just before the Spurs game, I saw so many United fans, some United fans who I respect, going, get rid of Pogba, get rid of him. It literally took a cameo against Spurs, so everyone's going, actually. We do need him.
He's really good at
football. He's actually very talented, and we need him. And Ole deserves credit for that, because there's so much pressure on him, and, you know, he was struggling. We missed Pogba, and he could have easily gone, you know, we're going to let Paul go. But he's convinced him to stay, however he's done it, and he's getting a tune out of him, and that's not, you know, that shouldn't be dismissed.
Just before we go, I want to talk a little bit about one of the sort of nuances of the Van der Beek deal. One of the things that shocked everyone, and has shocked me in a good way, but also I'm slightly concerned or dubious, the speed at which we got this deal done. Literally 24 hours, basically, wasn't it? From concrete links being established to Van der Beek to it's done. I want to talk about a little bit about, you know, are you surprised that United have done that? Because we've notoriously dragged our heels with every deal. There were talks that we didn't even negotiate for him. We literally said, what do you want? 40 million. Okay, here you go. Also, the way that football transfers are reported now, Jay, obviously you've got a journalism background and you are sort of our expert in that regard. Fabrizio Romano has come in and sort of taken the world by storm, certainly the transfer world by storm in the last 12 to 18 months. He's gone from being sort of specialist in Italy to being the number one authority on transfers in Europe and across the world. And British journalism, the sort of long-standing history of British journalism, has not kept up with that, the sort of commodification and concentration of journalism to I am a transfer specialist. Has not kept up at all. When is the last time a British journalist broke a story about Manchester United? There were literally reports, Simon Peach, Simon Stone, Laurie Whitwell, whom I respect all of them and think they're all very good, were literally tweeting stuff like, as reported in other sources, Van der Beek is closed. Like, transfers have become their own beast in the internet. We know from the job we do that nothing gets views, nothing gets interest like transfers. From us, from the people at home, transfers are the thing. They are the magic when it comes to football. Certainly in the off season, like between seasons. Are you happy with the way that transfers are reported now? Do you like this I am a transfer journalist Fabrizio Romano style, where he just goes for transfers and doesn't really do much else? Or do you sort of feel sorry for the older fashioned kind of, I write about everything and I ring Ed Woodward occasionally to see what's going on with transfers, traditional British style journalism? Do you think that's slipping away a little bit in this sort of internet 280 characters of here's what's happening with the transfers and transfers only?
I think, yeah, I get where you're coming from, and the sort of buzzword has become the Italian journalist. I've seen that used a lot, and they seem to have the finger on the pulse with transfers. But as we know from our conversations with Romano, and as you just said there, he focuses on transfers, where Simon Stone does a lot of reporting, a lot of different things. Laurie Whitwell covers all. I've seen bumped in at Laurie Whitwell at like under 23 games and stuff like that, where you never get Fabrizio Romano go out and watch his local team under 23s. I presume not anyway. So it is difficult for someone like, you know, Simon Stone or Simon Peach, or either, you know, the journalists who we rely upon and who, you know, when they tweet, you think, oh yeah, he knows what he's talking about, to focus on transfers across the world, which is what Romano seems to do. He's more or less dedicated himself. And we know from our own conversations with him, you know, the first time we were messaging him, you know, I was getting replies at 4 a.m. There's an hour's time difference between where he is and where I am. So that's 5 a.m. for him. Yeah. And it's like, he just barely seems to sleep.
He said he sleeps from 6 a.m. until 11 a.m.
Yeah, and he just focuses on that. And it's difficult, you know. I'm good mates with Craig Norwood, who used to be the go-to guy for transfers for United. And that was, you know, he was always dead reliable. And he just focused on United, though. He didn't have, like, loads of stories about Chelsea and not Havertz, but, you know, Chelsea or Liverpool, whatever. He was just
AC Milan or... You know,
he had his connections and he had his sources that were ultra reliable. But he just focused on United. And I don't think it's that much of a shame, because I think that what it has done, and the sort of the positive you've got from all of this, is you know who you can trust, you know who you can rely upon. We know there's certain journalists that if they tweet, you know, it's sunny outside, you take your umbrella, that whole thing, you know what I mean? Like, you just think, all right, okay, yeah, whatever. Whereas there are journalists like Romano, like others, especially some of the German journalists, where you go, okay, yeah, now there's something in that.
Yeah, and as we allude to, obviously in the Tier 1 transfer podcast, the tier system that came from Reddit has been a massive thing in that. But do you think, Alex, that it is? And I don't necessarily think this, but it's just struck me in the last couple of weeks. Like, you see, like James Ducker or you know, Henry Winter commenting about transfers, doing sort of opinion pieces on players and this sort of thing. It's, well, Romano had the story first. Like the internet and the social media way that Romano has so fine-tuned his journalistic career into just transfers. Do you think that is you know? Do you think it is a good thing? Do you think it is something that's maybe or
as a bit more
putting a strange pressure on everyone else? Yeah,
as a philosophical way of looking at football in general, I think that there's a younger element of fans that have grown up in this FIFA Ultimate Team state, in this Ultimate Team kind of way that football is about the players moving in between the clubs, and that's what, and you know, having this star-studded team is what you want, and that's where the transfer side of it's coming in. It's not about the Saturday watching the football. It's about the summer's almost more interesting to most people than the footballers, which is a shame in some way, but if that's how football's gone, that's how football's gone. But yeah, it doesn't seem that that's the way with the British journalists. There isn't this concrete. When you see something from even, like you said, the respected ones, you still go, I don't really believe you. You know, I don't. You know, any paper says United are linked to him, I kind of just go, you know. And I said I went away this weekend and I didn't have my phone on for most of it, and my mate would say, "Oh, Sancho to United for this deal," and I can tell I've been doing this for too long, because the first thing I was, well, what's the source? Because
exactly.
I don't believe for most of the things that get said now. You're like, it's not true. I don't think it's true. But then Romano does it, and usually he's right.
It's like one of the reasons we do the Tier 1 podcast, where we go through the Tier 1 news. Me and Ronaldo go through it. Is because there is like almost that league table now, and people do like have the journalist day rate. We do it ourselves, as I mentioned earlier, and you know, it seems like a good idea to sort of put that into a pocket and go, right, okay, what's Romano saying? What's Ducker saying? What's some of the ones that, you know, Winter, what's he saying? What's James Cooper saying? And some of them, like James Cooper, isn't the type who's going to go, well, I've got a source here who's going to... But he knows, like, he'll have connections and he'll know when something is done. So you can rely on him. He doesn't speculate. He doesn't go, well, I'm hearing on one hand this might happen. But, you know, he's reliable because he deals with pretty much facts. So that's why we like him. And, you know, he's not always the first to break a story, but he can confirm it. And I think that's the sort of thing is now you've got these journalists who are more reliable, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I get where you're coming from.
Well, I'm not.
I know you're not saying it's a bad thing, and I know
Yeah.
from your own, you know, our own conversations you don't. But just from what we do here, it's frustrating because we could spend like, if we spent like say a week doing a documentary on the '68 team that was absolutely, we thought was the best thing we did, and we interviewed Alex Stepney, and we actually done something similar on full-time when we were full-time Devils, and it does like 5,000 views, and then you go, oh, here's a story, Sanchez might be coming, and it does like 50,000, and you think, but it's the nature of the beast, I get it, and it's like people get excited and they want to see these players and they want to hear that they're coming to your club. And that's the way it works. So, whilst it is a little bit deflating at times, it's I think it is a positive in many ways.
And personally, I think not to call out any specific outlets, but as we all know, there are plenty of outlets that literally just peddle crap,
MEN,
knowingly doing it, only reporting on just false rubbish. This transfer's happening. United want this player, this player, this player, this player.
Have you noticed how it's like an echo chamber as well? Like, because we do the news as well in the morning, and you'll see a story in like, I don't know, let's say you see it in the Express, and you'll click on it, you'll go, United are going to buy Kante tomorrow. You're like, fucking hell, really? And then it'll go as reported in the Mail, in the Express article with a link. Then you click on the Mail, and it'll go as was reported in the Mirror. Then you click on the Mirror link, and it'll lead back to
some source in France that you've never heard of. Yeah,
and it'll be like, actually.
And as you know, Jay, that was never the case. You would never have one newspaper using another newspaper as their source for something, because why don't you do your own journalism?
Yeah.
Like, and now that's again.
And like you're going back to you spoke to me about how I was a journalist. I'm a journalist in that background. I obviously worked in radio, but it was like if you read something. And in a paper, a lot of the time when we used to get our news, we get down from what's called the wires from IRN, people like that, where it come down like, there's been a shooting or whatever, because I used to do a lot of news, not just sport. Then you get it verified. So I'd ring Greater Manchester Police, or I'd ring the root of the source.
You don't need to do
I don't just go, oh, well, I've read it on Twitter. Right, let's run it. On our bulletin, as being reported by, Sexy Marshall 95 says that United have just signed.
And hopefully with all this, and I think the last couple of summers have I think Dom we did a graphic last year, and it was just all the players United got linked to, and it was literally 200 plus players that United got linked to in one summer. I think maybe that's starting to come, or at least in our eyes, down, because anything that's linked to in these sources just doesn't gather any steam anymore.
Because I think
it feels like there is the credibility is you're starting to see that again, and it's going away from the newspapers. It's certain journalists.
I feel for some of these papers. I know a lot of local reporters. I know I keep slagging off the MEN, but some of the news reporters I know at the MEN are very good reporters. I just think their football coverage is absolute garbage. And I know there's pressure on them. They get put on pressure, under pressure, because it's like they could spend all day. Neil Keelan, who's one of the greatest reporters I know, who covers crime. He goes round to the police station and literally speaks to policemen about the crime stories on his patch. He's so reliable. But reporters now are under pressure where it's like they don't want that news article that's taking you all day to work on. They want a clickbait article that brings
us a tweet.
That brings it, because they've got pressures of money and financial pressures and stuff. So it is a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy that you have to do that.
One thing we saw with the internet, as anyone who's 17 or under might not remember any of this, but the initial or the last 10 years of broadband and newspapers and media outlets altogether have struggled to get their content to make the money it did in print online. And one of the ways they got around that, or one of the ways that has been probably the most common way of getting clicks and likes, is put Man United in every article. Get as many clubs as you can so we can get as many clicks as possible, which has led to, in my eyes, a massive decline in reliability from even look at Sky Sports as an example of that. They used to be one of the up there with BBC as if they say it's happening. Now they,
do you know what
you barely believe anything they say.
The new sort of buzz thing to do is
you
get Sky Sports as an example. You get a guy on Sky Sports. Let's say you had Paul Merson on. Paul Merson says, I think United should sign Lewandowski. And then you'll have an article that says United urged to sign Lewandowski. And it's actually an article based on one of their presenters who's come out with this nonsense that's never going to happen. And they'll do an article, and then others, like we've said, will pick up on it. And it'll be like, United linked to Lewandowski, and how you linked. And you actually... how we urged, because some presenter during a 10-minute ramble about nonsense has said, he'd be a good player.
He said he's the best striker in the world.
United should get him. And then it's like, that becomes a story in several newspapers.
Exactly. And then newspapers jump on that and say, well, they've been urged to. Well, no, he's not. That's not a...
And I think now, as a reaction to that, we are seeing this sort of filtration of reliability to the people who don't talk shit. And I think hopefully this is the way the internet is going, where you have especially social media, you have a pool of people you can choose from. You like this person, this person, this person, this person. And people will realise, and people are realising, the fact that a year ago Fabrizio Romano had 200,000 followers, he's got 1.5 million. When you did the interview with Henry Winter, Fabrizio Romano didn't have 1 million followers, and Winter did.
Months, yeah.
Now Fabrizio Romano's got 1.5 million.
So,
in 2 months, he's got 500,000 followers because this is the thing. People will find the individuals that do the work that they like. And that may be a change to the established way of doing things, but it's going to bring
what's
a
amazing
new era,
is someone,
hopefully, of reliability.
It's amazing that someone doing something right and just only putting out, this is what I know and this is the truth, is working for him. And that's the good thing to see, is that someone who is pushing this agenda, he's not an agenda, but he's pushing this, I'm only going to tweet what I know and what I know is right, and this is what's going to happen. And that's worked for him for the past 12 months. Yeah. And now he's growing into the stature it is, and that's how journalism should be, is that you only put the right things, and then people go...
It's just reminded me of something, actually. Me and talking about Craig, and we were talking about Alderweireld earlier. I remember me and Craig used to do a Red Mancunian podcast. Me and Craig used to do a Red Mancunian podcast, and once the Daily Star ran a story saying United urged not to sign Alderweireld, and it was off the Red Mancunian. It's Daily Star, which is like, it's not exactly elite. And it was me and Craig on the podcast talking about how all we'd said was Alderweireld is like, isn't he pushing 30? I don't know if we should get him. And they'd ran a story on it. It was like,
and that's the thing.
I'm reading myself in a newspaper just on two mates, which it was. Our podcast was just two mates. It wasn't like professional. Having a just chatting. Yeah. And it was just madness.
Now that, a newspaper, the print media is slowing down as you would expect it to, there maybe hopefully isn't we have to fill 60 pages or 40 pages a day no matter what. Maybe now they can put out less stories that are guaranteed to get more views because they have a reliability to them rather than just we have to fill the paper no matter what. So we'll hopefully see that bit of a reflective.
Can we do Wally of the Week before we wrap up?
Oh, you're gonna
can we what?
Mine,
do Wally of the Week.
Yeah, let's do Wally of the Week. Go on.
You're going to nick mine. So just
go on. You can go first.
Go on,
ladies
then.
first.
We'll go for it. We'll go for Danny Murphy. I'm going to go for Danny Murphy.
So you have Danny Murphy, right? You have him, and I'll do a different one.
What is this?
So Danny Murphy, I mean, you did the legwork for the tweet that I wanted to put out. Because Danny
I'm
Murphy,
the Romano and you're the Dave McDonnell.
So Danny Murphy said, I see Van der Beek coming in, that means Pogba's got to go. That was his statement yesterday.
On a rant.
Why would you have two attacking... You've got two great attacking midfielders, why would you sign another one for 40 million? And then what was it? Two weeks ago, he put out... They did an article on it saying United aren't good enough because the squad depth isn't right. And you just kind of go...
Over-reliant. He literally, when we got on Saturday against Sevilla, we're over-reliant. Bruno and that look leggy. They need to buy someone. And then when we do, he's like, well, you've got to get rid of one of them.
And
it doesn't make any sense.
And this is the other thing, that this whole thing about reliability, I think people are starting to figure out that even though you play professional football, it means you know nothing. Do
you know what
it means whatever you say doesn't mean that it's right, which I think people used to think that, if he's played professional football for Liverpool, the Scousers, you should know a bit about football. Yeah. And I think that's been the case.
You know what, it's not even that. I think a lot of it, and I used to love TalkSport. I did when I was younger. I used to love it. I've been on it a few times with Goldstein and people like that. But it just seems to have gone massively down the clickbait route. To the point when they have callers in it, you see them clipping up these callers and putting them on the Twitter, and we had this caller in the other day, and it's I think it's borderline sometimes. You've got mentally ill people on there. I don't use that term like I'm not belittling the mental illness, but it does sound to me like when I listen to it, I think that guy's not well.
Well, they had five people on that said that Messi isn't good enough for the Premier League, and you just kind of go in.
But we do it ourselves. We could go through all our comments and find the most ridiculous ones, and then clip that up into a video and go, United fan says that we need to sell Rashford and Martial. You will get outrageous opinions. You will get people that are just taking the piss. And they seem to have just gone down that route and have almost forgone the idea of a proper debate about serious issues, and just gone, oh, you know what? We've got Dave from Leicester who says that City
says his mum should be playing for Barcelona.
And they'll put him on.
No, she shouldn't. Well, how old is she? 58. She's too old for Barcelona. Taking seriously these. How much does she weigh?
And this may have been
and it's ridiculous stuff of
it's not. He's obviously
acting as though every opinion, no matter who it's from, is.
And this might have been the way they clipped it, because I only watched a clip of it, but it didn't sound like anyone kind of went, "You're talking nonsense." In these kind of shows, if someone came out with that kind of comment, surely someone in that studio, whoever he's on with, should go, yeah, but
They used to have that. They used to have a lot. Sometimes you would listen to just two presenters arguing, which wasn't that great in itself. But they at least used to have some sort of check of like.
Surely they go.
Yeah.
But do you not think we need squad depth? Without someone saying that.
And it undermines you because, like, years ago when it used to be like Asian Door and people like that, he used to do like the Daily Arsenal with wind up Arsenal fans, and it was quite funny because he'd do that, and then sometimes he'd talk about serious stuff, so you could sort of see that he might have a point when he'd say things like, "Oh, Drogba's better than Henry" or whatever. You'd be like, "Oh, it's quite." But when you've just got a stream of nonsense, then it's just like, "Oh, I'll tell you what, fucking Scott McTominay is better than Messer." It's just like you're never gonna get sort of into this where you think, "Oh, what? I can't believe you're saying that," because you think, well, they just put
they don't believe this
all the time. So yeah, I'm with you. I'll go with Mickey Gray's. Mickey Gray's been doing it today, so I just go with Talk Sport as well.
There's our Wallies of the week this week. Right, should we call it a day there?
Yes.
That's been a lovely podcast.
Yeah.
We didn't get heated this time. We didn't have a row.
No, we didn't have a row. We had a row about Talk Sport instead. But yeah, let us know what you think to this deal of Van der Beek. Is there part of you that's sort of suspicious almost of how quick this deal came together? Is it a strange removal and separation of United's normal transfer?
Do you know why it came down really quick?
Here we go.
Do you know why?
Why?
Because the greatest goalkeeper Manchester United have ever had.
Van der Sar.
There you go.
Van der Sar.
Undisputed, the greatest goalkeeper that ever put gloves on for Manchester United.
Greatest transfer director.
Anyone else who says otherwise is completely fucking stupid.
He's a fool. Right, that's going to be all from us. Like I said, let us know what you think of this transfer in the comments. Let us know whether you think this is going to be the match that lights the bonfire of transfers at Old Trafford. It looks like United are targeting a centre-back, potentially another centre-mid, and obviously Jadon Sancho is on the list as well. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Thanks very much, lads. It's been a fun podcast today, hasn't it? Very enjoyable. And not been interrupted by two parcels at all, so you won't even notice the cuts there.
Did you get your cream, by the way?
Yeah, I got my cream.
Right, good.
It's less red now anyway.
All right.
So
told you, we've all been there.
Yeah, red flag flying high. Right, that's going to be all from us. See you in a bit.